"Don't you dare touch that door, Catherine. They've tapped the nursery walls and the armed guards outside are not ours." Those screaming, panic-laced words, roared by Prince William as he tackled Princess Catherine to the floor while smashing a hidden camera lens, sent an absolute shockwave of sheer horror through Windsor Castle just 10 minutes ago. In a terrifying, heart-stopping midnight escape that has pushed the British sovereign line into total lockdown, Prince William and Catherine have officially fled Windsor Great Park in a high-speed, blacked-out armored convoy. While sweeping Adelaide Cottage for security threats, William discovered an active thermal tracking bug wired directly behind his children's bed frames, broadcasting real-time video feeds to a rogue internal palace server. When Catherine broke down in tears and ran for the kids, William realized their own royal protection detail had been compromised from the inside, forcing him to draw a weapon, blow through the main estate gates, and leave King Charles completely paralyzed in absolute terror. What horrifying message was carved onto that hidden camera that made William run for his life? Stay right here because the leaked London police distress tapes coming out tonight will leave you completely breathless. Look, to truly understand how a terrifying midnight flight from Windsor could unfold, we have to strip away the immaculate fairy tale facade that Buckingham Palace parades before the world and expose the dark, sinister web of security failures and toxic power struggles that have been quietly festering inside the royal estate for months. For years, Adelaide Cottage was sold to the global public as an idyllic, peaceful sanctuary, a quiet, four-bedroom family home nestled securely within the private 656-acre grounds of Windsor Great Park. We were told it was the ultimate safe haven where William and Catherine could raise Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis away from the suffocating politics of palace life and the relentless lenses of the paparazzi. But behind those historic stone walls and ironclad security perimeters, a terrifying vulnerability was silently taking root. The tensions began escalating when King Charles initiated a massive, sweeping restructuring of royal security protocols across all sovereign residences. Under the official guise of cutting operational costs and modernizing court logistics, key perimeter guard posts were digitized, human protection units were scaled back, and main clearance monitoring was consolidated into a centralized, automated hub inside London. Prince William fought this decision with absolute fury, repeatedly warning his father and the Home Office that relying on remote access security networks created lethal blind spots for his family. "You are leaving my wife and children completely exposed to internal sabotage," William reportedly screamed during a heated, closed-door security summit with royal commissioners. "If a breach occurs because someone bypassed an automated sensor, I will hold this entire Security Council personally responsible, and I won't hesitate to tear this administration down." His desperate warnings fell on deaf ears. While William and Catherine focused on their public duties and raising their children, the atmosphere inside Windsor grew increasingly paranoid and uncomfortable. Shadowy security reports began noting strange, unexplained technical glitches, thermal sensors around Adelaide Cottage flickering off for minutes at a time, private radio frequencies experiencing inexplicable static, and unauthorized vehicles lingering near isolated access roads along the estate boundary. Compounding this security nightmare was the toxic friction within the royal household itself. Queen Camilla's administrative faction had been pushing for greater oversight over the Wales's daily schedules, private staff vetting, and personal communications, sparking intense, bitter turf wars over who held high-level clearance to the private estate archives and secure comms networks. Windsor was no longer a home, it was a psychological trap, disclosed a former senior intelligence officer attached to the Royalty Protection Command in a raw, leaked interview. Kensington Palace was operating its own private intelligence monitoring because William simply did not trust the centralized palace network anymore. He had a gut feeling that someone inside court circles was actively gathering operational data on his family's exact movements. The breaking point was reached when routine sweeps of the estate grounds began yielding deeply alarming anomalies. Unmarked, high-tech drones were spotted hovering at tree-line levels near the children's outdoor play areas, only to instantly vanish into the dark the moment protection teams deployed electronic countermeasures. Private security contractors hired independently by William picked up encrypted cellular pings originating from deep within the historic underground service tunnels that crisscross beneath Windsor Castle. Tunnels that hadn't been fully mapped or physically inspected since the mid-20th century. Catherine's anxiety skyrocketed to an all-time high. Friends close to the princess revealed she had begun refusing to leave the children alone in certain wings of the cottage, plagued by a growing, haunting intuition that their home had been compromised. William intensified his private sweeps, bringing in independent, former Special Forces counter-surveillance experts without informing Buckingham Palace or his father's staff. What those independent experts uncovered in the dark hours leading up to their high-speed midnight escape would turn Catherine's worst fears into a horrific reality, setting off the most dramatic, panic-stricken royal evacuation in modern history. The nightmare at Adelaide Cottage exploded into raw, unfiltered chaos at precisely 11:42 p.m., transforming a routine family evening into a heart-stopping, high-velocity thriller. William's elite counter-surveillance team, operating completely off the grid without the knowledge of Buckingham Palace, was conducting a deep-frequency spectrum sweep along the eastern wing of the cottage. Utilizing military-grade thermal sensors and signal trackers, the lead technician suddenly stopped near the wood-paneled wall of Prince George's bedroom. The frequency meter was spiking violently into the red zone. "Your Royal Highness, step back right now," the technician whispered, his voice trembling as he held up a high-resolution thermal camera. "We have a live radio frequency emission originating from inside the wall cavity." William's blood ran cold. He shoved the technician aside, grabbed a heavy tactical flashlight, and shone it directly into the intricate trim work near the floorboards. There, barely visible to the naked eye, was a microscopic ultra-wide lens wired directly into the estate's primary power grid. "Get Catherine and the kids down here now," William roared, his voice echoing off the historic stone walls with terrifying intensity. "Lock down the main hall and draw your weapons." Outside in the corridor, heavy footsteps echoed as protection officers unholstered their firearms. Princess Catherine sprinted down the hallway, her face pale, her heart hammering against her ribs as she saw the armed guards surrounding the master hallway. "William, what is happening? Where are George and Charlotte?" Catherine screamed, tears streaming down her face as panic overtook her. "Tell me what's going on right now." "Don't come any closer, Catherine," William barked back, grabbing a claw hammer from a technician's toolkit and violently smashing the antique wooden paneling to splinters. Wood debris flew across the carpet as the wall caved in. Exposed inside the cavity was a complex, state-of-the-art surveillance rig. A high-definition thermal lens, an omnidirectional laser microphone, and an active transmitter blinking with a steady, eerie blue light. Catherine gasped, clutching her throat as a wave of nausea washed over her. "My God, they've been watching the children," Catherine sobbed uncontrollably, collapsing against the doorway as William caught her by the shoulders. "They were watching our baby sleep, William. Who did this to us?" William's terror instantly transformed into blinding, unadulterated rage. He lunged toward the lead royal protection officer, grabbing the man by his tactical vest and slamming him against the wall with violent force. "Who authorized this wiretap?" William screamed directly into the officer's face, his knuckles white, his eyes wild with fury. "This power line runs on palace encryption. Who has the codes to this junction box?" "Your Royal Highness, please?" "I don't know," the officer pleaded, his hands raised in surrender as he frantically pulled out his encrypted security terminal. "Let me check the central registry access logs." The officer's fingers flew across the touch screen, running a trace on the specific security clearance code used to bypass the cottage's main circuit breakers. The entire room stood in absolute, suffocating silence as the progress bar hit 100%. The officer looked up from the screen, his face completely drained of color, his jaw dropping in sheer horror. "Sir, the system override code wasn't generated by an external hacker or a foreign intelligence agency," the officer stammered, his voice breaking. "The master clearance key used to install this bug was issued directly from the private executive office of Queen Camilla at Buckingham Palace." The revelation hit the room like a megaton warhead. Catherine let out a piercing scream of utter betrayal, leaning against the wall for support as the brutal reality set in. It wasn't an outside enemy trying to harm them. The enemy was sitting inside the royal household, operating from the very top of the monarchy. "Camilla?" William whispered, his voice trembling with a terrifying, icy rage that chilled everyone in the room to the bone. "She put cameras in my children's bedroom?" Before anyone could process the horrific betrayal, the blue light on the surveillance box suddenly turned into a flashing, violent red. A sharp, high-pitched electronic siren began chirping from inside the wall. "Sir, it's a remote override command," the technician screamed frantically, pointing at his monitor. "Someone just initiated an emergency data purge from an off-site terminal. They're wiping the local memory logs and the internal lithium battery is overheating. It's going to ignite." Thick, chemical smoke began billowing from behind the drywall. "Get the children out of the house. Now, now, now." William bellowed at the top of his lungs. Chaos erupted. Catherine dashed into the children's bedrooms, ripping the sleeping royal children out of their beds and wrapping them in blankets as the house alarms blared violently through the night. Armed guards formed a defensive shell around Catherine and the kids, rushing them down the main staircase and out into the freezing, pouring rain. William grabbed his wife's hand, pulling her toward the waiting fleet of armored Range Rovers idling on the driveway, their engines roaring and security lights flashing against the dark trees. "Get into the convoy. Move," William ordered, shoving Catherine and the children into the heavy back seat of the lead vehicle. As William went to slam the door, the chief security officer ran up, his face twisted in absolute panic. "Your Royal Highness, the main perimeter gates aren't opening," the officer yelled over the roar of the rain and engine noise. "The automated gate controls have been overridden from London. We are trapped inside the grounds." William's eyes narrowed into slits of pure fury. He jumped into the driver's seat of the lead armored vehicle, grabbed the radio transmitter, and slammed the heavy SUV into gear. "Brace yourselves," William yelled back to his terrified family. "We are not staying here to be hunted." With a deafening roar of the supercharged engine, William slammed his foot onto the accelerator. The 6-ton armored vehicle surged forward across the wet gravel, smashing directly through the reinforced iron security gates in a shower of sparks, twisted metal and shattered glass. The convoy tore out onto the main highway at dangerous speeds, disappearing into the dark, stormy night, leaving Adelaide Cottage burning with smoke behind them. By 1:15 a.m., the high-speed escape from Windsor Great Park had triggered a massive global news explosion that completely paralyzed international media networks. Emergency dispatchers in Berkshire were flooded with hundreds of frantic calls from locals reporting heavy armored convoys blowing through red lights, police helicopters blaring searchlights over the estate, and the sound of iron gates being smashed open. Within minutes, the first leaked dashcam footage hit social media. The video showed Williams' blacked-out Range Rover battering through the security barriers at breakneck speeds, surrounded by tactical escort vehicles with flashing red and blue lights. The internet instantly went into an absolute, uncontrollable frenzy. Across X, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, the story erupted like a nuclear blast. Millions of posts began trending under hashtag Windsor evacuation, hashtag Where is Kate, hashtag Palace espionage, and hashtag Royal Coup. A leaked audio snippet, recorded from a local emergency band, went viral globally within minutes, racking up tens of millions of views. "All units, this is control. We have an unauthorized high-speed convoy breaching the Windsor perimeter. Alpha vehicles are in transit. Internal security compromised. Repeat, internal breach detected. Execute code red, pursuit stand down." The public reaction was pure, unadulterated shock. Massive crowds began gathering outside the gates of Buckingham Palace despite the pouring rain, shouting questions at stone-faced royal guards. Mainstream news channels canceled their regular programming, replacing it with live emergency broadcasts featuring security analysts and military experts analyzing every second of the leaked footage. On X, fake leak accounts and royal watchers began dropping alleged internal memos. One viral thread from a verified insider account read, @RoyalLeaks_UK. Breaking. Sources inside the Metropolitan Police confirm Prince William personally drove his family out of Adelaide Cottage after discovering active bugging devices in Prince George's bedroom. The tracking signal was reportedly traced directly to senior staff offices inside Buckingham Palace. The royal family is in total lockdown. Celebrities, political figures, and commentators joined the firestorm. Major podcasters and commentators fired off frantic posts. At Piers Morgan, "If these reports out of Windsor are even 50% accurate, we are witnessing the single most catastrophic internal security failure in the history of the British monarchy. The palace needs to make an official statement right now." At Joe Rogan, "Man, you can't make this up. If the future king is ramming security gates to get his kids away from palace surveillance, the whole institution is burning down from the inside." Inside Parliament, an emergency session was called in the middle of the night. Top defense officials and intelligence chiefs demanded immediate answers from the Home Office regarding whether the line of succession was under active physical threat. As William and Catherine remained hidden inside an undisclosed, heavily fortified military bunker in Norfolk under the protection of loyal Special Air Service units, an anonymous whistleblower group dropped a second, terrifying bombshell online. They published a decrypted 14-page document containing encrypted server logs, audio transcripts, and financial clearance orders from the Palace network. But as independent cyberforensic analysts began reading through the leaked files live on air, they stumbled upon a second, far more horrifying twist that changed the entire nature of the scandal. The leaked logs proved that Queen Camilla's administrative office wasn't the ultimate origin point of the spy operation. Her account had been hacked and framed using stolen administrative access keys. The hidden cameras and laser microphones inside Adelaide Cottage weren't just streaming audio back to London. They were transmitting live, raw video feeds to an off-grid, encrypted server registered in Montecito, California, and routed through a shell company in Geneva, Switzerland. The broadcast team on a major news network went dead silent as the lead investigative journalist read the raw forensic report live on air, his hands visibly shaking. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just received confirmation from cyber defense specialists analyzing the leaked server data. The surveillance system inside Prince George's room was not installed to gather palace gossip. It was part of an international blackmail operation code-named Operation Sovereign Down, and the master IP address controlling the live feed was logged into a private VPN server registered directly under the name of Prince Harry's former legal defense trust. The studio audience gasped. The global audience was left paralyzed with unbelievable shock. The realization hit the world like a tidal wave. Queen Camilla had been set up as a decoy to force William and Charles into a violent, internal war, while an external faction was secretly monitoring every single move of the future king and his children. When the news reached Prince William inside the Norfolk military bunker, he stared at the tablet screen in utter, speechless horror. His jaw went slack, his face drained of all color as Catherine broke down in tears beside him. "It wasn't just Camilla?" William whispered, his voice cracking with intense emotional trauma as he gripped the edge of the table. "They used her clearance to spy on my kids. Harry's legal team holds the encryption keys." Before William could even process the devastating emotional blow of his own brother's potential involvement, his secure satellite phone buzzed on the table. An automated alert flashed across the screen from the Norfolk Perimeter Security Team. "Warning, unidentified armed vehicles approaching Norfolk bunker perimeter. Air surveillance detected. Prepare for immediate defensive engagement." The nightmare wasn't over. The attackers had tracked their off-grid location. By sunrise, as news of the Montecito IP link and the midnight high-speed escape hit every major news station across the planet, the world officially erupted into complete, unadulterated madness. The global media landscape shattered into two fiercely hostile camps, triggering the most explosive, aggressive, and divide-driven public controversy in modern history. Mainstream networks completely scrapped their scheduled programming, running continuous 24-hour emergency broadcasts with security analysts, former intelligence chiefs, and royal biographers engaged in wild, shouting matches on live television. "This is an absolute declaration of war," a prominent legal analyst roared during an emergency morning broadcast. "If dynamic surveillance devices were planted in the bedrooms of royal children and routed through California shell companies, we are no longer talking about family drama. This is high treason, cyber espionage, and an international criminal conspiracy." On opposing networks, defensive commentators tried desperately to control the narrative, calling for calm while questioning the authenticity of the leaked Montecito IP addresses. "We must exercise extreme caution before jumping to dangerous conclusions," a palace biographer pleaded nervously on air. The IP routing could easily be a sophisticated spoofing attack designed by foreign actors to destroy what's left of the royal family. Suggesting Prince Harry is involved without official court evidence is irresponsible. That attempt to calm the public was utterly demolished as social media platforms descended into absolute warfare. Millions of furious users flooded X, TikTok, and Instagram, creating massive digital battle lines under trending hashtags #Justice for William, #Montecito Exposed, #Protect the Waleses, and #Palace Treason. Online polls conducted by major media outlets showed an astounding 98% of respondents fully supporting Prince William's decision to crash through the Windsor gates to protect his family, while public trust in royal administrative institutions collapsed to zero overnight. Furious public debates exploded across the internet. At Royal Watcher 99, William literally had to ram his armored SUV through iron gates because he couldn't trust his own guards or his own family. "If anyone dares attack him for running, they are completely insane. Protect those kids at all costs." At Sussex Truths, look at the IP logs. It's right there in black and white. They set up Camilla to take the fall while streaming video feeds across the Atlantic. This is sick, evil, and completely unforgivable. At GlobalAnalyst_UK, even if the IP was spoofed, the security breach happened inside Windsor Great Park. Heads must roll in the Home Office today. The British monarchy is completely falling apart live on international television. Outside Buckingham Palace, the atmosphere reached a boiling point. Thousands of protesters gathered under heavy rain, holding up signs demanding the immediate arrest of those responsible for the surveillance operation, while heavy riot police lined the gates to prevent angry crowds from surging into the palace courtyard. Meanwhile, international government leaders were forced to break their silence. During an emergency press briefing at Downing Street, the Prime Minister was hammered by frantic journalists demanding to know if the line of succession was safe. The government takes the physical security of the royal family with absolute, utmost seriousness, the Prime Minister stated sternly, his face tight with visible stress. I have ordered a full, independent civilian police inquiry led by special branch to audit every single security network across all royal residences immediately. Even Hollywood and major media executives were caught in the crossfire. Streaming platforms and production studios holding multi-million-dollar deals with the royal factions faced immediate public boycotts, with stock prices tumbling as public anger flared against anyone linked to the drama. To make matters infinitely worse, Kensington Palace's independent communications team, operating entirely outside of Buckingham Palace control, issued an unprecedented, ice-cold official statement that shocked the global establishment to its core. The Prince and Princess of Wales will not be returning to any residence administered by Buckingham Palace security protocols. Their Royal Highnesses are prioritizing the physical safety and psychological well-being of their children above all else. Any further attempt to compromise their location will be met with immediate, decisive legal and security action. The statement sent shockwaves through the global political landscape. William wasn't just hiding, he was officially breaking away from the monarchy's administrative control. By 5:30 a.m., inside the heavily fortified Norfolk military bunker, the tactical alarms were still blaring red. Special Air Service protection teams took up defensive sniper positions along the perimeter, bracing for an imminent assault as armored vehicles approached the compound. Prince William stood over the main tactical monitor, his face drawn and pale, his hand gripping the edge of the steel table so hard his knuckles turned white. Beside him, Catherine held the children close inside a secure inner vault, her eyes wide with terror as distant shouting echoed through the concrete corridors. "Sir, armed vehicles have breached the secondary perimeter checkpoint," the SAS commander yelled, racking the bolt of his assault rifle. "We have armed personnel entering the main courtyard. We are authorized to engage. Hold your fire." William screamed, lunging toward the monitor. "Look at the lead vehicle insignia. Hold fire." The heavy steel blast doors of the bunker hissed open, revealing a convoy of dark gray military transport SUVs, marked not with rogue tactical logos, but with the official seal of the King's Sovereign Intelligence Detail. Out of the lead vehicle stepped King Charles himself. The King walked into the bunker surrounded by elite royal guards, his face aged by decades of sudden stress, his hands visibly shaking under the weight of an unbelievable, world-shattering betrayal. William sprinted toward his father, his eyes burning with furious questions. "Father, what is going on?" William demanded, his voice echoing violently off the concrete walls. The IP address was traced to Montecito. Camilla's clearance was used to bug George's room. The entire security detail is compromised. King Charles held up a single, trembling hand to silence his son. He motioned for his chief intelligence director to step forward with a locked, heavy steel briefcase. "William, sit down," the king whispered, his voice cracking with immense emotional pain. "You think you were targeted because of palace politics? Or money? You don't know the truth." The intelligence officer placed the steel briefcase on the table, entered a triple biometric code, and popped the heavy latches. Inside lay a single heavily encrypted black hard drive wrapped in historic royal wax seals, accompanied by an original yellowed parchment document dating back to 1997. William stared at the document, his heart hammering against his ribs as he recognized the handwritten signature at the bottom. "Princess Diana. What is this?" William asked, his voice dropping into a terrified whisper. The surveillance inside Adelaide Cottage was not planted by Camilla, nor was it ordered by Harry, King Charles revealed, tears finally welling up in his eyes. The server in California was a relay mirror. The signal was being controlled from right here inside London by a clandestine shadow committee within the Crown Estate trustees. William's jaw dropped in absolute horror. "Why?" William shouted. "Why spy on my children?" The king stepped closer, leaning over the table as he opened the encrypted file on the laptop screen. "Because of what your mother discovered before she died," Charles confessed, his voice barely audible. Diana discovered that the original royal trust governing the line of succession contained an emergency clause. If a reigning monarch or heir attempts to dismantle the old palace administrative structure, full legal ownership of the crown estate assets automatically transfers to a secret civilian trust board. The intelligence director pulled up the live server diagnostic logs on the monitor screen. "Your Royal Highness," the director stated gravely, "the bugs planted in Adelaide Cottage were searching for your mother's lost private journals. Journals that contain the legal codes to activate that clause and bypass Buckingham Palace entirely. They knew you had the journals hidden in your home." William gasped, stumbling backward against the wall. The realization hit him like a physical blow. His family hadn't been spied on for media leaks. They were being targeted to prevent them from taking full, independent control of the monarchy. Before William could process the devastating truth, the laptop screen suddenly flashed bright orange. A new, secondary countdown timer appeared over the encrypted files, ticking down from 24 hours. A text file auto-generated on the screen, revealing a chilling message sent from an untraceable source. The journals must be delivered to the Tower of London before the timer expires. If the codes are not surrendered, the full unedited audio feeds from inside Adelaide Cottage will be broadcast live to every major global network at dawn. William stared at the glowing screen, his chest heaving, his mind racing in absolute shock. The real war for the crown hadn't just started, it was reaching its final, catastrophic climax. This is without a shadow of a doubt the most heart-stopping, terrifying, and dangerous royal conspiracy in modern history, and the entire future of the British monarchy is hanging by a razor-thin thread. Now, I want to hear directly from you. Who do you think is really pulling the strings behind this shadow committee inside London? Do you believe Prince William should release his mother Princess Diana's secret journals to the entire world and burn this dark palace network to the ground? Or should King Charles step down immediately to protect his grandchildren from further harm? Drop your wildest theories, hot takes, and reactions in the comments down below right now. I read every single comment and I want to know exactly where you stand in this historic royal war. If you were sitting on the edge of your seat during this entire video and want the instant emergency update the second that 24-hour countdown timer hits 0, do not wait. Smash that like button right now, hit subscribe, and tap that notification bell to turn on all post notifications. Our investigative team is tracking every single leaked radio frequency, emergency dispatch, and insider update coming out of London in real time. The next emergency video is dropping very soon, and you definitely do not want to miss a single second of what happens next. Thank you for watching, stay safe and subscribe now for the ultimate royal update.